I want to tell you something that took me years to learn. Obsessing finding your life purpose can stop you from finding it. For years, I believed that somewhere out there existed a perfect answer for me. A perfect career, a perfect calling, the perfect purpose. And if I could just find it, everything would make sense. But I was wrong. When I was in high school, when we had to decide what we were going to study in a university, I was actually deeply interested in psychology. I found people fascinating. I wanted to understand why people behaved the way they did. It was actually a lot of fun for me to think about that. But I chose architecture instead. Partly because I was good at art, but partly because the degree was so much shorter than psychology. It was 5 years for architecture and psychology, 9 years to become a psychologist. And probably mostly because it would make my family proud of me. So I studied architecture, earned my degree, completed my master's, worked in the industry for years, bought a house, and by most external measures, I was doing well. But the longer I stayed in that career, the more miserable I became. Not because I hated architecture. Actually, I quite like design. I really enjoy creativity. What I hated was the things surrounding it. The status game, the hierarchy, the egos, the invisible power struggles between people. At the time, I couldn't explain why those things affected me so deeply. I wasn't just unhappy with my job. What I didn't understand was that I was carrying a lifetime worth of unresolved pain. Growing up, I was in an environment where I never really felt safe, and because of that, I became obsessed with understanding people. Why they hurt each other, why they manipulate, why they love, why they fail to love, why some people create suffering, and others create healing. That curiosity had been with me my entire life, but I couldn't recognize it. And instead, I became obsessed with another idea, finding my life purpose. I consumed endless self-help content about finding your life purpose. I bought so many courses on finding your life purpose from coaches and gurus, and I hear them saying things like, find your purpose and you never have to work a day in your life. So I became convinced that somewhere out there contains a magical answer that would solve all of my unhappiness. Eventually, I left architecture and trained as a life coach. I thought I had found it. This was my life purpose. This was going to be my thing. So much so that I positioned myself as a life coach who would help others to find their life purpose. But instead of clarity, I ran into something that I had been avoiding my entire life. My own sense of worthlessness. For years, I struggled and wrestled with low self-esteem, depression, and unaliving thoughts. I desperately wanted life coaching to be my purpose because I already have built an identity around it. I needed it to be true. I needed it to justify the risks I've taken. I needed it to prove to myself that leaving architecture had been the right decision. But the harder I clung to the identity, the more stuck I became. And that's when I discovered something surprising. The problem wasn't that I hadn't found my life purpose. The problem was that I was trying too hard to define it. Then one day, I noticed a pattern. I loved asking questions. I loved examining assumptions. I loved exploring ideas. I loved putting words into experiences that people felt but couldn't quite explain. I loved the grey areas of life. The greyer the better. I thought this meant I loved psychology. But I realized what I truly loved was philosophy. Not the academic kind of philosophy, but the act of questioning. The act of exploring reality. The act of understanding what it means to be a human. And then it all made sense. The thing I had been searching for hasn't been hidden. It had been present the entire time. I had simply overlooked it because I was too busy trying to turn it into a job title. And I think many of us who are interested in finding our life purpose may be doing this. We treat finding our purpose as though it's a destination. What if purpose isn't a destination at all? What if life purpose is the ongoing relationship between your curiosity and your life experience? Our deepest wounds often point towards the things that we're most motivated to understand. Your struggles reveals what matters to you most. Your curiosity reveals where your energy naturally flows from. And together, they create a direction. Not a destination, a direction. For example, I have a friend who struggled with food and health for most of her life. And because of that, she developed a genuine understanding towards nutrition, health, and food. Her suffering created her genuine desire to understand something deeply. And many people discover their life work like this. Not because they chose it logically, but because life keeps pulling them towards it. That's why I no longer think the question should be, what is my life purpose? The real question should be, what am I really curious about? What interests you? What keeps drawing your attention? What problems do you naturally want to understand? What suffering are you trying to make sense of? Follow those threads, not because they will lead to some grand final destination, but because they're leading you somewhere meaningful. And meaning is a much more powerful motivator. Maybe philosophy isn't my final step. Maybe it is. I don't know. And I don't think it matters. Life isn't a problem to solve. It's an experience to partake in. So if you're desperately trying to find your life purpose, maybe stop and try doing the opposite. Stop searching for answers. Start paying attention to what genuinely interests you. Follow your curiosity. Follow your questions. Follow the things that makes you come alive, and let life unfold from there. Because maybe purpose isn't something you find. Maybe purpose is something you live. So I'll be making another video on leaving your 9 to 5. Well, actually it's more like 8 to 5 or longer for many people. And living your life purpose, what that could look like and what you could expect. I'm super excited about it. Still writing it. And if this message resonated with you, leave some comments, because you never know that your message can help someone else to understand themselves and make sense of their own life experience. And if you have a nuanced idea that you would like to discuss or watch me make a video of, do drop it down in the comments, and I'd love to see what I can do about it. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I really enjoyed making this video, and I shall see you very, very soon.